I am so excited for this episode. I have always been fascinated with stories of survival and the search and rescue involved. And to hear what these guys go through, it just says so much about the heart and dedication of a search and rescue team.
Yeah, and not only that, but they also connect with the community through outreach programs, teaching preparedness, for example, at REI Knoxville. It's about good decision making and mitigating risk. And these are the types of people with a mindset of mental and emotional toughness, thriving in and enjoying the harsh, arduous environments.
After talking to these guys, it really grew the respect that I have for people that do a job like this.
Let's get to it.
Welcome to the First Planet Adventures podcast. Super excited for our guest today, but first I'd like to paint a little picture here. So imagine hiking through the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, surrounded by vibrant green, thick vegetation. You look out through the trees and see only the dense fog moving through like smoke. Enthralled by the beauty and eerie ambience of the environment, you never see the roots sticking up out of the ground, catching the toe of your boot. You tumble head first off the trail. When you come to, the trail's nowhere in sight. You can't put weight on your foot, so you're not hiking out on your own. You're disoriented. You have no coverage on your cell phone. But the good news is that you let your spouse know when to expect to hear from you. So there is some hope of someone coming to help you.
Today we have Andrew Herrington, founder and team leader of BUSAR, Backcountry Unit Search and Rescue, and with him is Matt Jernigan, BUSAR's assistant team leader. BUSAR is an all-hazard search and rescue team operating the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and the National Park System. Andrew's vision to create BUSAR came from almost 2 decades of search and rescue experience in the Smokies, wildlife ranger, wildland firefighter, and former backcountry law enforcement ranger. Andrew uses these experiences along with his backcountry teaching wilderness survival and safety to forge this highly dedicated team. He was recently recognized for the creation of the team with the National Park Search and Rescue Award and for his role in the Gatlinburg firestorm, the Department of Interior Valor Award, and the Tennessee Conservation Hero Award. Matt, he has over 25 years of outdoor experience, backpacking, mountain biking, trail running, and adventure racing. Matt has summited Kilimanjaro, trekked Kenya, Australia, New Zealand, and several Central American countries. Having grown up in East Tennessee, he has a deep knowledge of the Appalachian Mountains. He also serves on the board of Harvest Field Ministries Haiti and Experience Your Smokies. Welcome, Andrew and Matt.
Hey, thanks for having us. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Absolutely.
So, BUSAR, what does All Hazards Rescue Team mean?
So all hazard means swiftwater, technical rescue. All of our members have an extensive outdoor experience. Everything, our skill set is inclusive of man tracking, off-trail travel, land navigation, medical, everything. So by all hazards, we mean we operate in any environment. There'll be swiftwater, arduous carryouts, inclement weather, and then technical rescue.
So pretty much the whole gambit of any outdoor adventure within the Smoky Mountain area.
Yes, in fact, we thrive on that.
What outside agencies do you work with and cross-train with?
Yeah, so the first thing I'd want to say is that we are an outside agency ourselves. And so the Smoky Mountains has their own search and rescue team. And so if you think about like the Army, there's the regular Army, then the Army Reserves. And that's how I kind of describe our team, is that when the Rangers need backup, when they when it's a holiday weekend, there's tons of people in the park and they're spread a little thin. When there's incidents, then that's when we come in to help them. So first and foremost, the Smokies has their own search and rescue team, and we're here to supplement them. So we are an outside agency. And then, we worked with Blount County Rescue Squad before. We worked with Haywood County Rescue Squad before. We've got a good relationship with all the local agencies. Some of these bigger incidents that happen, everybody comes in and it's all just one big team. And so that's how we try and look at it, is that when we're up here, we're part of the Smokies rescue team. So even though we are an outside agency, we fold in, we're all working together to accomplish the mission.
So could you give our listeners a little bit of more in-depth idea of what your capabilities are? I noticed when I was doing some research that you guys list canine, perhaps drone. We talked briefly about mountain rescue, swift water rescue. I also noticed there's you guys responded and assisted with a plane crash situation at one point. What other type of capabilities do you guys have?
Yeah, so I can just run down them real quick. Primarily when we developed the team, it was for the off-trail rescues and searches, and that came from my experience here in the park. My other job for a lot of current job here as well in the Smokies is as a hog hunter in the park, and so always working off trail on these. When someone went missing, they'd always pull the hog hunters in because we're very familiar with backcountry and tend to be in good shape to handle those type of missions. And so that's when I was like, hey, well, what if we recruited outdoor athletes to help supplement this type of stuff? So originally we were designed for off-trail rescue, and then the chief ranger at the time said, well, hey, what about looking at helping us with technical rescue? And then it kind of progressed into swift water rescue. And then as we built the team, we got a down plane specialist on the team, Jeff Wadley, who wrote Mayday about the plane crashes in the Smokies. And so as the team grew, we had more and more capabilities, and we just started to help fill other niches in the park. But winter rescue, all our guys, they go to winter rescue classes up in North Carolina. Let's see, swift water, we just trained swift water not too long ago. Technical rescue, so that's all your low angle, steep angle, high angle type rescues. Medical, we've got a couple of physicians on the team now. We have paramedics, EMT, advanced EMTs, EMTBs, one PA. So we've got a pretty good broad range of medical skills on the team. Trying to think else. What are we missing? We do have a canine unit on the team, Ben Landcamer and Cato, and so he's working with Cato to get him where he's ready to be deployed in the field as far as searching. And then we looked into the drone aspect. We brought a guy on for the drone stuff, but then we tied in with ORNL, and they've got a really good drone program out there. And so they've been used on the Clemens SAR. We brought the Oak Ridge guys in for that.
ORNL's Oak Ridge National Labs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they got a phenomenal program, and their budget far exceeds ours, and so they've got bigger, better.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's great. You guys have quite an extensive capability portfolio.
We do an important aspect of what we do is we cross-train all of our members. So everyone has a basic skill set on all areas.
Yeah, and so what Matt's talking about there is, we can use an example on that is, one of our, we've got an example would be Anthony, who's our swiftwater instructor. He's also guides on the Golly, guides on the Pigeon River, big time boater. And so his primary specialty is swiftwater. But what we train Anthony in is tracking. We train him in, survival. We train him in medical. Well, he's already an advanced EMT. But, we just across the board, because we want, when you get a BUSAR team member up here, we want to have a standardized platform of skill sets. And so we kind of follow the national park model on that. Our ultimate goal would be to have everyone SRT2, which is Search and Rescue 2, Technician 2, Swiftwater 2, Technical Rescue 2, and EMTB. So we would have all the, ground pounders, as we call them, across the skill sets.
And when you talk about the certification levels, who's the certification through? Is that through the National Park Search and Rescue organizations?
Yeah, so we follow the National Park guidelines on the Search and Rescue technician, the Swiftwater technicians, and the Technical Rescue technicians. The emergency medicine stuff's going through the National Registry as far as EMTs and paramedics.
I actually read one of the posts from your Facebook when you were recruiting new members, and it was experienced outdoor athletes wanted for hazardous work, no wages, long hours, adverse weather, high level of fitness required, honor and recognition in case of success. What would drive someone to want to join a team like that? And same question for each of you, what drove you to want to do this?
Yeah, I can answer that because I created that fly. Have you ever seen Shackleton's post in the paper when he was preparing? That's where I stole that from. And so I just
Yeah.
And so basically, what we're looking for people is, and Matt's a great example because he was the first person that I recruited. He came through my survival class, and a ranger had told me about Matt, who was an adventure racer and into stuff like that. And I said, "Hey man, would you be interested in starting a search and rescue team?" And his eyes lit up, And so, when there's a certain, I would say it's almost like a breed of person that when you tell them that, hey, you're going to be uncomfortable, you're going to be miserable, you're going to face all these type of challenges, so that you can help someone else out. Like there's a certain breed of people that, it's like a moth to a flame. That's like their calling. That's, what they're bred for in that regard.
Mm-hmm. That's what I mentioned earlier about our team members, thrive, really do thrive on that. I think all of us have come together. I mean, in my background, even prior to BUSAR, as a mountain biker doing some ultra endurance events. I mean, there's those times where you really, it's really painful. And the same is true in some of our missions, whether you're pushing up steep mountain, crawling through rhododendron and cold, miserable weather. But there's something in doing that is so rewarding. And with BUSAR, I see that amplified in the camaraderie that forms amongst the team, and that brotherhood or sisterhood, if you will, either or brotherhood, gender neutrally there, meaning, but it's a great experience.
Yeah, and from a a story that I think about when Austin Bohannon went missing over on the southwest end of the park. There was one moment that we were searching a drainage and we were crawling through the rhododendron and we were making about a half mile an hour. It was just miserably hot, a half mile an hour crawling through rhododendron. One of our guys got heat exhaustion, and so it was, and we were only halfway through our mission, and so it was just like, make or break, like for that guy. But it's like he came back, so it's just like the, just that suffering together, breeds that, or it fosters that relationship. If you suffer together, the bonds definitely get stronger. We have a really cohesive team, and one of those is, Matt and I first started, 5 years ago. We started meeting on Tuesday nights at the park up in Maryville to work out together, and it's been every Tuesday for 5 years that our team gets together and works out together and just tries to make each other miserable with workouts. And then like, that's the glue to our team. I keep on saying that to new recruits. I'm like, you can't make workouts. I was like, we don't want you here because this is the glue to our team.
I'd say and one other aspect to it is all of us, by recruiting outdoor athletes, all of us love to be outdoors anyway. I mean, we have, I'm a mountain biker and backpacker, and we have paddlers and we have climbers, and this is stuff we'd be doing on the weekends anyway, or during the week. So I'm already recreating in the park anyway. I'm already here, so why not come up and just have the opportunity to do this and help people out?
Yeah, I think that last part is key, is when you combine, like, I think everyone has a different reason for being on the team, but the commonality in there is that that service to others, being able to help someone out their darkest hour. I think that's that would be the common thing, because some people, it's about the brotherhood, and some people, they just want adventure, and some people it's, this is a challenge, but there's that underlying thing is like, hey, yeah, I want to help people, and this is an aspect that I can give back to the community and make it a better.
Yeah. What I hear you saying is there's a certain amount of being comfortable with being uncomfortable or embracing the suck. and having fostering a never quit spirit, because you're out there to actually help people who are in serious need of help, but also doing it in service to other folks. That's pretty powerful.
I always made the argument is like, the reason, a lot of times, when we were developing our fitness standards, we made them very challenging and higher than what the Park Service would actually require of us. Because once again, why do people want to be in like an elite special forces unit? Part of it is the challenge. It's they want to raise themselves to that bar and get over that bar. And, there's a certain type of people that if you set the bar high, they will go for that bar. That's what we look for in our members.
So we know there's a lot of physical prep work that y'all put in, physical training. How does someone prepare to be on a team like this mentally and emotionally?
In my mind, for me, I think the mental aspect, I'll touch upon the emotional aspect in a moment. The mental aspect is part of, comes with the training. It's really a byproduct, because when you are, as an example, when you're in rhododendron for miles on end and you're just getting beaten down, and you do get beaten down in the rhododendron, and it's physically challenging, but in that toughness, that mental, build that mental fortitude as well. It's maybe that's the way I'm wired, but I think we all just, we push through that and those hard times. That just like any other muscle, that mental attitude, we're working it out when we're really doing something physically strenuous. And speaking to the emotional strength, we probably all handle things differently. Things we've seen and witnessed. I don't know about that. That's something we really can train for, or is something that we all handle differently?
Yeah, I guess the preparation mentally, I would say when we target recruit, it's about finding the right people for me. And so I typically look for someone who's had at least 10 years outdoor experience, because I know they've had, they've matured in their outdoor sport, whatever that may be. And I say that because, like the first rescue I was ever involved in was my own rescue, right? And so I got a plate in my head from a rock climbing accident. I got rescued when I was 17, 18. And so, when you're a 17, 18-year-old male and 19, 20 and stuff, you may be perfectly physically capable to be on this team, but, you're still running on a testosterone, like as far as making, rash decisions, like I want that. And, we've got some younger males on our team that are in their mid-20s and stuff, but they're extremely mature because they've been doing this stuff since they're 12 years old. And so they understand the risks, of paddling class 5 white water or climbing and all that kind of stuff. And so for me, the first mental part is that they're bringing that to the table, hopefully when they come in the door. As far as the emotional aspect, we've seen a lot of different, gruesome endings to incidents. And I think those all play, you can't unsee something. And I think they all play into a role. And I think just the closeness of our team and just checking in on each other. And, the park's really good. They've got critical incident stress management. If we have a big event that involves fatalities, especially kids or anything like that, then they offer the critical incident stress management to our members, which is crucial. But yeah, I would think that the emotional aspect, we just check in like every time we work out together before we start, and we got anything to share, and we kind of check in. If someone, hopefully everyone realizes that our team is a safe enough place that if you're struggling with something on a recent mission, that you can air it out. We're all there for you, and we'll come to help. We've got a guy that's deployed in Kosovo. An example of that right now, one of our guys is deployed in Kosovo right now, and our team goes and mows his yard, every week or so. Every week. And he's been over there for, over 6 months now. And so that's just, that's just an example of the team coming together to support each of us when we need each other.
Can you tell us about some of the arduous physical tests that you put people through? Just curiosity, what's your Cobra fitness test or the National Park Service PAC test?
Well, any new recruit too, we do require, even before they get to the fitness test, we do require that they take various classes on ITS, which is the instant control system.
Instant command.
I'm sorry, instant command system. And that was developed by FEMA over the years, and some other prerequisite aviation safety, things of that nature. But the way it works, a recruit will come and work out with us for 4 weeks in a row, get to know them a little bit, get to know who they are, them, us as well, make sure they're a good fit. And then we start the Cobra Fit test. The first part of the Cobra Fit test is the arduous pack duty test, and this is a National Park Service, U.S. Forest Service standard, and that is covering 3 miles with a 45-pound pack in 45 minutes, and you're not allowed to run in that. And it's pretty straightforward. So that is the first component of it. And then afterwards, to what we do is we adding it to that, we do an up and over picnic tables with a 45-pound kettlebell and our SAR pack for an additional 30 minutes. And that mimics very well what it's like to carry a patient in a litter in the Smokies. It's up and down with that. So that's a really, really good test. From there, we then move to what we call my personal favorite, the burpee pack pull-ups. So it's a minimum of, so in that movement, you're doing a full burpee with your SAR pack on, which typically weighs 17 to 20 pounds, by the way. And then you have to perform a pull-up. And we'll do a minimum of 50 of those in 10 minutes.
Ooh.
The requirement. Certainly can do more if you like, but and then after that, we'll do, it's 235?
Yeah, with the trap bar, it's 50 pounds, so it's 230.
230. Okay, and then 15 reps of those in 1 minute.
We have a trap bar, which is a deadlift bar that you can actually get inside and simulates picking up a litter. And so we set the timer for 1 minute. You have to do a minimum of 15. And so all those, they kind of sound like random tests, but, it's kind of this backstory behind those is back injuries are the number one reported injury for search and rescue personnel in the National Park Service based upon like a 10-year study. And so, our mindset, well, if someone can lift 230 pounds 15 times, it shows us that A, they've got good lifting form. B, they're very strong. The largest patient I've ever had to carry out of the woods was close to 400 pounds. And so, the patients can be very large nowadays. The burpee pack pull-ups, what that simulates when you're crawling through road, you may be crawling and then you're up and over something. So we're taking our body through the largest amount of range of motion we can, all the way from the ground to above a pull-up bar. And so we're also testing lower body power, upper body power, cardiovascular, but we're also saying, hey, this sucks. For 10 minutes, this is going to suck, and can you make it through that 10 minutes? And then the up and overs on top of the pack tests is showing that incline, decline, but also that kind of grip stuff. And that's just more of a mental fatigue thing, because you're 20 minutes in and you're like, oh my God, is it not over yet? You're carrying this. You can't set the kettlebell down. You can only switch it from hand to hand like you'd be carrying a litter. And that one, it sounds like it'd be the easiest one, but I think a lot of people are like, wow, that really sucked.
And it does.
Right.
Yeah, it does.
It's good though. It does mimic closely a lot of experience on missions. And an important thing to this too about our fitness test is not just recruits. So all of us, every team member reapplies each year, and that's maybe a unique to us as compared to most search and rescue teams. But that's really important because the fitness is very, very important for the types of missions we perform. And so by reapplying each year, we no complacency. We always keep strong.
Great. That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, there's a reason why you do these things. It's not just, hey, how much can you tolerate or how much can you work through? There's an actual objective to be measured here. That's great.
Yes.
So earlier we had Casey read a scenario of a hiker who was out, who tripped and maybe went unconscious, woke up off the trail, wasn't sure what to do. So can you kind of walk us through your response? Like who initiates the call? Where do you guys, who calls BUSAR to activate you?
Yeah, so in any type of search and rescue, there's the first phase of it's going to be investigation, right? So that's where the rangers are going to determine what, where, when, why, right? And so in your scenario where the hiker left a trip plan, that call would come into 911, or if they had our dispatch number, they would call them. And then that would then get pushed out to a ranger in that district, right? So let's say it was my husband was going hiking at LeConte and he didn't come back. Well, the first thing that's going to happen is the ranger may swing up to LeConte. We're going to try and find out what type of vehicle they have. Is the vehicle still there or not? If the vehicle's still there, well, then there's a pretty good chance they may still be on trail. And so that's when it kind of depends. If it's just an overdue hiker, if it's something getting a little bit more involved, there's a search urgency rating form. And that's where they pretty much assign a numerical number to you based upon your age, the type of gear you have, the area that you're in, and the weather conditions as far as the level of urgency. And so you have to think from a search manager's perspective. Anytime we put people in the field, we're exposing them to risk. And so if it's midnight and it's snow and ice and sleeting and it's off trail, well, putting personnel off trail in icy, snowy conditions at night is a pretty good chance that you're going to get a rescue or hurt. So in that scenario, if you are the hiker and you have the gear to make it out, they're probably not going to put people off trail until the next day. Now they may do a hasty search that night on trail, but anytime you step off trail, you're increasing risk. So that investigation phase is the first part. The hiker fell, went off the trail. So they tried to call 911 and they couldn't get out. From a instructor standpoint, I would say always try and dial 911, even if you don't have service. By law, a carrier is going to have to pick that call up and transmit it if you can get any type of carrier on that. And so the report would come in either from a third party, or typically a lot of times it can come in from a cell phone call or someone else on the trail saying, hey, there's an injured person about 3 miles up the trail. Now, if they know the extent of the injuries, they can kind of start to see what type of resources they need. If they don't have the resources on duty that day, then they'll do a page out for a litter team. So in that scenario where it's just a simple, go up, get the patient, load them in a litter and bring them down the trail, which is a pretty common one, especially for a lower extremity. That's they're going to do a call out within the Park Service to all the different divisions to see who's available. We also get texted, and other people on the Park Service's emergency roster also get paid for that. And so everyone just comes together and meets at the trailhead. You say by text whether you can respond or not. So that's a simple carry out scenario.
So as far as education and trying to prevent some of these emergency situations, you also do preventative search and rescue programs. Can you tell us a little bit more about your educational efforts and community outreach?
Yeah, so we've done programs at REI, Three Rivers Market, a couple other places. And so, I can use, I won't use that example, but like on the back end of a incident, we've had trackers, we've had drones, we've had ground teams, we've had aviation units, and in a certain scenario, none of those things mattered, right? Because the patient was already a fatality. But on the front end, if that patient had, had certain mindset and certain gear, well, then we wouldn't have got to that point. So there's only so much on the back end that search and rescue teams can do. And the best thing you can do as a recreationist is do your part in the beginning to make yourself A, better prepared, or B, easier to be rescued, right? And so you mentioned leaving a trip plan. One of the biggest things that we tell everyone is, then I can't ever think of anyone we've had to really go look for that's left a trip plan, because typically they're people that are very well prepared. They've checked the weather, they've checked in the ranger station, they've probably been to REI and bought some good gear. There's the people that go to that trouble typically don't get in those situations. The people that get in trouble are the people that come up and they're wearing flip-flops and shorts, and they buy the $1 trail map and they decide to hike up LeConte. They take the wrong turn, and then now it's dark. They're trying to navigate with their phone. The phone starts dying. The kids and the wife are screaming, and everybody's mad and crying and scared, and that's how it goes. But yeah, I mean, the more you can do on the front end, the better off you are, and that's the purpose of those PSAR programs. And in the program, what I typically do is I highlight real world scenarios based upon our experience, then also news feeds. And then I just break it down into mindset, skills, and gear. And so the mindset is, just because you dial 911 doesn't mean that the rescuers are going to drop out of the helicopters and pick you up at that point in time. Like, it's still your responsibility. And once you learn, once you do a search urgency rating on yourself and you say, oh, I'm probably going to just spend the night out if I'm off trail, then people start to take it a little bit more seriously. The skills part, we break that down into 3 different categories, which covers 10 different catalysts in my book. And, so that's medical, that's like the bivouac scenario, spend the night out with minimal gear and bad weather, and then immersion type scenario. And then the gear, basically, we just showcase the gear. Something as simple as a trash bag is a complete lifesaver. And so having, a good plan as far as the things that are going to save your life. I have a business where I teach wilderness survival, and, I'll train, girls for that show Naked and Afraid and all this kind of stuff. All those skills that are portrayed on TV and in survival books and magazines and stuff, that's not what you really need out there. You need to be able to treat your injuries. You need to be able to stay warm. You need to be able to stay hydrated. And if you can do those 3 things, you got a pretty good chance of making it out. And so having the mindset, skills, and gear to accomplish that, it doesn't take that much, honestly. Matt, you got anything to weigh in on that one?
Just one thing, it's just somewhat related, but it just struck me. I think there's something people don't realize, that when they do get injured, it takes a long time before responders are able to reach them. Easily, I think of some instances or just simple, maybe it's a injured ankle, maybe a broken wrist, things of that nature on Mount LeConte. Mount LeConte's one of the more popular series of trails that go up. There's some of the more popular trails, one of the higher mountains in this area. But anyway, it can easily take 17, 18 hours to get someone down. And so that's just a long time to be waiting, or to be, not waiting, but to have an injury and essentially just waiting for the first responders and then being carried out. So it kind of goes back to what Andrew said, or hinted to, is the responsibility, to be able to take care of yourself until you are found or have care and get out.
Yeah, and and honestly, you don't have to be that far in. In classic case is the waterfall guy that we were on a month ago. The guy's, he was probably only a mile in, but it took 4 hours to get him out, right? And so we ended up having to fly him because he was critical, but the helicopter couldn't fly because of a weather window, right? And then also he was at the base of a waterfall, so we had to set up haul systems to get him out of there. So it's, a lot of times it comes back to, and I teach from a wilderness survival standpoint, but let's just take it and just say, hey, when you come out here, let's call it wilderness safety, right? Whether it's wilderness safety, wilderness survival, it's actually really, really boring. It's, they make TV shows about it, but real wilderness survival is boring. It's about making good decisions and mitigating risks, right? And so climbing on a slick waterfall in the summer, right? Well, what's the risk? Well, the risk is that you're going to fall off that and, fracture multiple bones in your bodies. And, then you're going to have potential hypothermia even this summer because now you're a trauma patient and, now you're dealing with that. I mean, it happens every single summer, so like, should I go climb on that waterfall? Well, what's the risk and what's the reward? Well, the risk is, I'm going to do this. So how can I mitigate that risk? Well, maybe I don't climb up so high, or maybe I, wear good footwear, or maybe I set up a rope. I'm not saying don't take risks. Trust me, I'm all about going out and doing adventure sports, but just like being aware of those risks and making educated decisions and trying to mitigate it. I think that's the good, safe way to do it. Coming from a guy that's got a plate in his head.
What does the prepared outdoor adventurer look like to you? Or said differently, what do you want people to know before heading out into the backcountry? And I think you touched on that a little bit with the 3 courses, the first aid, the land nav, and the overnight survival type situation. But on your website, you've got a couple of very useful tools, I think, for folks that they can download and take advantage of. Can you touch on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, I think you're talking about the 10 essentials.
Correct. The 10 essentials, and then the stop, think, observe.
Yeah, plan, act. Yeah. So, so the stop kind of goes into the mindset. If you're in an actual incident, what you tend to have happen is if someone gets lost, a lot of time they can start to panic, right? So they get the adrenaline dump. And so while adrenaline is great to help you, run from a fire or fight off a bear, a lot of times it just clouds your judgment when you're making these decisions. And so one thing that we tell people to do is if you are in this situation that you couldn't prevent because for whatever reason, the first thing you want to do is stop, right? If you can sit down, you're going to lower your blood pressure. And what I typically try and get people to do is just focus on the breathing, right? So you want to calm your system down, right? If you can control your breathing, you can control your body, you can control your mind, right? So we do box breathing. The think is just think about your priorities, so like, what are the priorities here? Well, can I get a signal out? Can I call? In survival is the rule of 3s, right? 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. Well, I like to think of more like a what's important now, like always win, right? And so if you think about that kind of like the win priorities, right? First aid may be your first priority, right? How long does it take someone to bleed out from a arterial bleed? So like deal with what's most important now. Maybe the most important thing right now is immediate shelter because the storm's upon you. Or maybe it's kind of climb up this ridge and get a call out on cell phone because it's a higher spot, So kind of thinking about all that and making a plan, which would be later. And then, the O is for observe your surroundings and your gear. Plan is, go ahead and start making your plan. If it's a group, you want to discuss it. And then the last part is act, right? So plan doesn't do you any good unless you put it into action. And then 10 essentials, you can find those anywhere online. I won't go over them all, but basically, that kind of goes back into that mindset, skills, and gear is, if you have the right mindset, if you've done the training and have the right skills, well, you back that up and have the right gear. Like I can teach you to go out here and, survive in the woods naked and do all that kind of stuff. But like why, that's not a very, realistic common scenario, and B, it's a lot of hard work, right? Like a lot of people are always asking me like, oh, if you could only have one item in a survival situation, what would it be? Would it be a knife? I'm like, no, it'd be a sleeping bag, right? Because in a sleeping bag, I don't have to build a fire. I can, lay in it if I'm injured. We had a guy back in, around 2000 laid in his sleeping bag for 3 days up on the Appalachian Trail. He ended up losing his toes from frostbite, but like he's alive. If he tried to build a shelter in those environments, he'd be dead. So sleeping bag's a life-saving piece of gear. And it kind of goes back to, if you look at how these survival situations happen, is like the majority of them happen to day hikers, and it's like, well, why did they happen? Well, if you're out on a backpacking trip and you get caught out an extra night, well, you've got your sleeping bag, you got your tent, you probably got your stove, maybe you're out of food, but it's no big deal. Maybe you just go hungry that night. But if you're out on a day hike and bad weather rolls in, well, you don't have your tent, your sleeping bag, and all that kind of stuff. So preparing for that overnight and whatever the weather conditions are is really, that's the big crux for me when I teach.
Awesome. You mentioned something there that maybe a lot of people might not be familiar with as part of the pause breathe, and that's box breathing. And that's for those who don't know, it's a breathing pattern, a breathing system, right? Where you breathe in, maybe let's say a 4 or 5 count in, 4 or 5 count hold, exhale, and hold again. And it's very, very effective at controlling your sympathetic responses and keeping yourself in a very calm mental state. If somebody wanted some more information on that, I would direct them to a real quick place to go would be YouTube. Look up Mark Devine or Seal Fit, Unbeatable Mind. They've got some videos there to help you out with that. It's very powerful. All right. So if people wanted to learn more about or, support you guys in some way, what's the best way to go about doing that?
Our website, which is teambusar.org. BUSAR is BUSAR. You can learn more about our team. Certainly the tips there, the 10 essentials, more information about the stop, as well as a trip plan. Examples of that are all there. Certainly, you can also, our contact information where you can make donations certainly is there.
Yeah, I would add to that is I would call him a mentor once told me in this industry, he said, we don't rescue people with ropes and helicopters and all that stuff. He said, we rescue them with money, because it takes money to get that gear. It takes money to provide the training. It takes money to just get people up here to do what we're doing. That's the name of the game. So, I think the good thing about our organization, and I've seen it with donors, is, donors are heroes too. And so one of our big donors from Florida, she came up, I'm like, hey, look, here's where your money went. Is this person is alive because, the money that you gave to our organization, and you can just see it sink in, oh yeah, it's a pretty big deal, so I would say that too, when you're, whether it's our organization or another one, if you're listening across the country, when you make a search and rescue team, that money is going to save someone's life, and you are going to become part of that team at that point. So maybe you can't be out there physically, but you're out there.
Yeah, you really can't overemphasize that enough. Can't do it without the money, and it definitely directly saves lives.
Andrew, do you want to talk a little bit about, in the last few minutes here, your what you do on the side, or your business with training?
Yeah, sure. I run a school called Big Pig Outdoors, and you can find me at bigpigoutdoors.com. And I guess, I grew up in wilderness survival. Is hey, I'm going to be this mountain man and do all this kind of stuff. So I went through this kind of primitive living skills phase where I ran around and loincloth and barefoot making arrowheads. And then I went through this craft phase where I went to Canada and I trained with all the guys there, and I wore wool shirts and built big fires. And then I started working for the Park Service about 20 years ago. And what I saw is that all the stuff I'd learned in Boy Scouts and read in books and all that kind of stuff, when it comes to, real world survival experiences, it just wasn't playing out. And so in 2013, I started up my own outdoor school. And so what I look at is taking my search and rescue experience and combining it with my professional hunting experience and wildland firefighting and all the other outdoor jobs I've had, and coming up with a program that kind of is a realistic program. So you're not going to be making baskets and brain tan buckskin in my class, but you are going to learn how to deal with cold water immersion. You are going to learn how to deal with multiple life-threatening injuries, how to spend the night out in really nasty weather, how to build fire when it's 40 degrees and raining. And so I only teach those classes during the wintertime because I need those conditions to make it really nasty, and that's what I like. And the side benefit of that is, coming from a law enforcement background, is how we train law enforcement, how we train military is in reality-based scenario trainings. And so when you are in that situation in real life, you're like, oh, it's no big deal. I've been there and done that before when in training. And so currently I teach the survival classes. I teach land navigation. I teach. I've been teaching some wilderness, like foraging classes. I've kind of haven't been teaching those lately as much. And then we're looking at starting a wilderness first aid class through my business as well. And then I teach some tracking classes, but custom classes, I'll do anything. Like I do a lot of custom training for different organizations. But yeah, the meat and potatoes are the survival class and the land navigation class. And I hope to offer a wilderness first aid class. So that way one-stop shop, you can come get all three things that you need to be safe out in the outdoors.
Awesome. All right. And Matt, what's on your agenda? What's next for you? Any adventure races coming up or,
I just came back. I just got back from Moab.
Love Moab.
I haven't had time to plan my next adventure, but I'm in the process of finishing their 900 miles of maintained trails in the Smokies, and I hope to finish those in the next month and a half.
Very nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're big fans of Moab. We love that area, the San Rafael Swell. Done a lot of canyoneering back in that area, so
Love it.
beautiful.
Love it.
And then one more time, best way for people to contact you?
teambusar.org.
Gentlemen, thank you both for taking the time out from your busy Saturday training day to chat with us. We truly appreciate you and what you do.